Calvin Castine on the corner of Prospect Hill Road and Route 276, about 2 to 3 miles south of the Canadian border. We're at the Dewey Tavern, and Hometown Cable is starting our 2008 coverage of the Battle of Plattsburgh commemoration series. Right where the Battle of Plattsburgh began back in 1814 in late August, the British forces started to muster around this site. Then a thriving stop on the way for travelers. We're diagonal to Northeastern Clinton Central School, and almost 200 years ago as we're taping this, it grew to a population of about 14,000 British soldiers, their Indian allies, and Canadian voltigeurs. We see some reenactors here. We notice some tents on the other side of the building. Normally in the past the ceremonies have taken place on this side of the building. Looks like they're going to move it over to the back part today. So we're going to pick up action there as Hometown Cable begins its 2008 look at the Battle of Plattsburgh commemoration.
Good afternoon. My name is Harry McManus, and I'm standing in for Salim Paquette, who asked me to be here along with David Patrick. This is the beginning of the Battle of Plattsburgh celebration here in the North Country. We've started it now. David, how many years? David, how many years have we been starting at Dewey's Tavern?
This is the third year.
Third year we've been starting here at Dewey's Tavern. We'd like to thank, of course, Louis Bedard for letting us be here and so on and view the property. There's a couple of other people that I would like to recognize. We have a short program tonight, or this afternoon. First, from the town of Champlain, we have Craig Hicks. All right, Craig and his son Sam. And I mentioned local historian David Patrick will be here talking a little bit about the significance of Dewey's Tavern. In addition to that, we have Kit Booth and Gary Van Coor from the Battle of Plattsburgh Committee, and they've been doing a tremendous job working towards 2014, which ought to be the big event here. In addition to that, we have, as you can see, some reenactors, Craig Russell's militia, and we have bagpipers here too. I just wanted to say a quick thing about one of the things that the town, I should say the county, is planning. We've been trying to come up with something that incorporates both the quadricentennial and the Battle of Plattsburgh. And with Stacy Pratt, the new county historian, we also wanted to incorporate the schools into this process. So what we've come up with, and I don't know how many of you have been down to Peru Central School, but they have a mosaic down there that was done by the students. And so what we've decided to do at the 7th grade level is incorporate history teachers and art teachers and have a contest throughout the county at each of the 9 schools. And Stacy is going to put together a specific event for them to work on, which will become part of this giant mosaic. Now, I'm not sure if you have been down to the county offices lately, but we used to have a tremendous amount of dead vines there. Okay, and no pun intended, but after advice from Amy Ivy, we ended up getting rid of all of those. And so now we have this blank tabula rasa, if you will, and we're going to put something on it. And one of the events, of course, will be the Battle of Plattsburgh, and I believe Plattsburgh High School or middle school will be given that opportunity. Each school is going to have something specific to the geographic area of that particular school. So we're very excited about this project, and needless to say, it will start with the Native Americans, which is just one of the things that I just wanted to mention to you. I was reading some excerpts from an upcoming book about Champlain's dream and his humanity in terms of how he viewed what was going on here in the New World. And I think Dewey's Tavern kind of brings this whole thing together with the idea of Jefferson's concept of liberty, which is our 2 ideas that this country was founded on. So I'm very pleased to be here today, and I'd like to begin this with the recognition of David Patrick, who's going to speak to you a little bit on the history of Dewey's Tavern. Thank you.
Okay. So we are standing here today at one of Clinton County's most historic sites. This is the site of Dewey's Tavern, built in 1800 by Elias Dewey. This intersection used to be called Dewey's Corners. Elias Dewey came to Champlain in 1798 and built a log cabin right behind me. You can still see the broad axe marks on the wood. He lived here for 2 years and then built the main house without the addition. He later built the addition and converted the house into a tavern since it was on the main road to Canada. The tavern had 15 rooms and each room had a fireplace. On June 18, 1812, Congress declared war on England after several years of building tensions. 9 days later, on June 27th, General Benjamin Moores of Plattsburgh received the word of the declaration and assumed command. The militia was called out for a 6-month tour. In Champlain, Major Smith noted that no barracks existed in the town of Champlain. This made the citizens of Champlain uneasy and prompted them to form a Champlain Committee of Safety. Its members were Pliny Moore, which is my relative, Alan Moore, no relation to Pliny, and Samuel Hicks. They recommended to General Bloomfield that 2 or 3 blockhouses be built so the troops could winter there and protect Champlain from incursions by the British. Soon after, Dewey's Tavern was frequented by officers of both the Americans and the British armies. The Deweys were fearful that they would have to leave the tavern. When Mrs. Dewey packed some of her goods into boxes, a young officer ran his sword through the barrels of boxes in hopes of finding a spy. The roads here saw 3 American armies pass on the way to Canada. The road right here is the road to Canada. The first was General Henry Dearborn's 5,000-man army who camped here in these fields in November of 1812. He passed up this road to Lacole, where he was defeated by the British. Dearborn and his officers stayed in Pliny Moore's house, the site of Clark Funeral Home today, and used it as their headquarters. In a letter written to John Jacob Astor, who was the fur trader from New York City, on March 26, 1813, Pliny apologized for not writing to him earlier and stated the reason for not writing was because of, quote, "When Mr. LaHebert went from here last November, my house was like a large hotel. All the principal officers of the army were in it, and I did not write." So as you can see, Champlain definitely had a lot of people, armies on both sides come. Another time Champlain saw a major conflict was in August of 1813. British commander Colonel John Murray, who was previously stationed at the garrison in St. John's, Quebec, was given an order which included the destruction of public buildings, military stores, and vessels. Murray burned down buildings in Burlington, Plattsburgh, and Chazy, and Swanton. In a letter written to Pliny Moore on August 1st, Saxe of Chazy warned of the British raid and mentioned the belief that the British would march to Champlain and burn the blockhouses there. He wrote, "I think there is no doubt you'll have a visit from them tomorrow night. I think you had better remove the public property all from your village, if already not done, and tear down the blockhouses if they stand so near any other buildings as to communicate fire in case they are burned by the enemy." The officers told Mr. Sherman last night that they intend to send 300 men to Champlain this morning. In September of 1813, General Wade Hampton camped in these fields here after his defeat in Ottletown. He then went to Plattsburgh and built the 3 forts on the Oval base, where the Oval is today, which is called Fort Brown, Moreau, and what's the other one? Scott, yeah. On October 1st, 1813, a small party of American militia attacked Ottletown and surprised a picket guard. British Major Perrot was furious and wrote a letter to Judge Pliny Moore threatening to pillage the village if any more attacks occurred. He wrote, "Citizens of Champlain, I am happy that humanity should still have so much power over me as to inform you that should any of the militia of Champlain be found hovering this side of the line, I would let loose upon your village and inhabitants the Canadian Indian force under my command. You are probably aware that it has been my greatest difficulty I have till now withheld them, but your cowardly attack at midnight of a small picket of ours has torn us under the veil which you hid from them. So beware." And he said, P.S. Major Perrault would be obliged to the Honorable Judge Moore to acquaint the citizens of Champlain of the tenor of the above humane advertisement. So maybe a little bit of humor there. On October 12th, 102 Americans led by Colonel Isaac Clark sailed down the lake from Burlington and attacked the British at Missisquoi Bay. Perrault then carried out his threat on the citizens of Champlain in retaliation. In November of 1813, a few weeks later, the British entered the village of Champlain on 4 occasions. Judge Pliny Moore wrote, "We have this morning learned that 400 regulars landed at Rouse's Point, marched up and joined at Dewey's. I saw them all pass and repass and judged there were at least 1,000. They have plundered from Messrs. Price and Smith store about half the goods on the shelves, supposed about $1,000. 2 horses from the stable broke open Mr. Moore's store, who had removed his goods before their arrival, plundered Bass's hucksterry, took from Mr. Barnes in bed his clothes. Captain Smith rifled the pocket of his son of what change he had. This moment I learned by Mr. Weeks from the shore that they burnt down the custom house at Windmill Point and all returned over the line." With so many skirmishes and raids on both sides of the border, Pliny Moore and their other residents living in Champlain area were frustrated that both armies were using the border villages as a staging area for their campaigns. Pliny wrote, "This predatory warfare, if persisted in, will desolate all the frontiers on both sides without affecting anything valuable or honor in the war." Ezra Thurber of Rouse's Point agreed with Pliny and that the American army should stop their raids into Canada from Champlain. Thurber wrote, "Can it be accomplished any good on the general scale of national affairs? The fact is, us that lives on this frontier must pay for it. Retaliation is determined on by the enemy." The winter of 1814 was the start of the next round of military campaigns. General Wilkinson was now in command of the Northern Army, and he believed that he could make successful attacks into Canada. The tavern was also the site of 2 prisoner of war treaties. 2 of the 4 treaties signed during the war were negotiated and signed here in this house. One agreement was signed on April 15th, 1814, and the second on July 16th. These agreements were never ratified by Congress, but were still adhered to by both sides. In the summer of 1814, the British and Americans were preparing for battle on Lake Champlain. The British wanted to divide the New York and gain control of Lake Champlain. Starting on August 27th, Izard's army marched from Champlain down to Plattsburgh. By 29th, he had left the Plattsburgh area. On September 4th, when the British started to march down Champlain, Izard was in Glens Falls. On August 28th, the day after Izard left Champlain, a British Indian force crossed the border. Pliny wrote in his diary, "British Indian force came into Champlain." On September 1st, exactly 194 years later, the left wing of the British Army marched down Route 276 and camped in this field across from the school. Sir George Prevost commanded this wing. The right wing camped in the village of Champlain on Pliny Moore's land. Because the army was so large, the force was divided into 3 wings and 2 brigades. A total of 10,000 to 14,000 soldiers were now camped at the 2 sites. The British Army's occupation of Champlain was mostly peaceful in nature. Their goal was not to plunder the village, but to march to Plattsburgh and engage the Americans. However, Generals Prevost and Brisbane issued orders to Champlainers to abandon their allegiance and invited them to provide provisions to the army. When few villagers came forward, Prevost commandeered wagons and teams and loaded them with baggage and stores. While in Champlain, the British used Pliny Moore's stone farmhouse on Prospect Street, today the house of Alan Racine, as a commissary, as Pliny's letter of September 14th reveals. "None of the officers have quartered at our house except a commissary who occupies a stone house as a store. Several officers have put their beds in the house and lodged for a night, all of whom have treated me civilly." The British Army remained in Champlain until September 4th, while their Navy continued to prepare warships for the battle on Lake Champlain. When Prevost could wait no longer, he ordered his army to start their march to Plattsburgh. Pliny wrote in his diary on September 4th, British Army, about 14,000, passed on to Chazy with 16 pieces of cannon. The left wing of the Army left here and marched down to Coopersville. They then turned west and headed towards Honeymoore's Corners and then met up with the right wing. Both armies marched to Chazy and camped there that night. On September 11th, the Battle of Plattsburgh occurred and the British retreated to Chazy and then Champlain. On September 13th, most of the British Army marched back into Canada except for one brigade, which stayed here until September 25th. On the retreat back to Canada, the British left many of their wounded at this tavern. When the soldiers died, they were buried in the Dewey family cemetery in the field across from the school. Today, no trace of the cemetery remains, although the graves are still present. A small park is planned for the site to help preserve it from development. I hope in the near future to put 2 New York State historic plaques commemorating this cemetery as well as the tavern here on the road. So in conclusion, the town of Champlain has a rich history related to the War of 1812, and Dewey's Tavern is a significant part of this history. Thank you for coming.
I would be remiss if I didn't welcome and recognize Roy and Joe Carter, who come every year from England and have for 6 years now, 7? 6 years. Joe is a descendant of Colonel Willington, who was killed in Beekmantown in the battle and is now buried at Riverside Cemetery in Plattsburgh. And they're delightful people, so if you get an opportunity to go up and say hello, it's very nice. All right. Now I'd like to introduce Kit Booth, who's going to talk a little bit about the Battle of Plattsburgh and a great week that's about to happen here in terms of all of the celebration events that are coming up. Kit Booth. Kit.
Thank you, Harry.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming, too. I think this is a bigger group than we had last year, and we really appreciate the fact that you sort of kick off our weekend on this Saturday, because next week there's a whole program of activities that are going to be happening. I just want to let you know about that. Monday night, Bear Tracks is going to be playing at Trinity Church at 7 o'clock. Tuesday night, the Adirondack Brass will be out at the Old Base Chapel, right at the end of the Oval. Wednesday night, a group, which is 3 people. They don't really have a name that I'm aware of. They're actually all pretty much solo players, but for us, they've gotten together to form a group, and they've done this before in other places. Dan Berggren, Peggy Lynn, and Ed Lohman will be, again, in the Trinity Church on Wednesday night at 7. Thursday afternoon is when the, I guess the weekend really starts to kick in serious shape over at the Riverside Cemetery. Riverside Cemetery, there is a plot where Captain George Downey, who was the British commander in the fleet that fought the battle out on Cumberland Bay, he's buried there along with several of his men and also several American casualties from the Battle of Plattsburgh. It's interesting because probably this is one of the very few places in the world where you'll see both combatants from both sides buried side by side in the same cemetery. So we start out our main remembrances there at the Riverside Cemetery, where we will have speakers and dignitaries. The British Embassy is sending their military attaché, Colonel Fairclough. He will be here. He was here 2 years ago, actually, and he loved it so much he's coming back again. He's a great guy, and he gets involved in everything. You'll see him in all sorts of places. He ran in the race, among other things, on Saturday morning, and he's just everywhere. He enjoyed it so much, had a great time. So we're very happy to have him coming back. Janet Dupree, I believe, will be there to speak. Of course, the mayor will be there as well. The Master of Ceremonies, Keith Herklow, is a historian in his own right, has written a book called The Battles at Plattsburgh, meaning the one on the lake and also the one on land. And there will be several other dignitaries from Canada who will be there as well. The Plattsburgh State will be sending a choral group. The reenactors, I should say, will be there to fire a volley. We'll have Canadian and American veterans involved as well. And of course our bagpipers will be there to entertain, as well as all the other things going on. It takes about an hour. This is on Thursday afternoon again, starting at 5 o'clock at Riverside Cemetery. We see typically about 150 people coming to that, and we're just delighted to have them all come. Friday afternoon, late in the afternoon, you'll begin to see reenactors showing up at the Kent Lord House, where they will be setting up tents like this. We expect to have anywhere from 130 to 150 reenactors coming to the Kent Lord House for the weekend. They will be involved and engaged in 2 reenactments, one on Saturday afternoon, one on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock each day. And the encampment will be open so that if you're interested in seeing how they lived in the era of 1814, by all means go down and wander through the encampment and talk with the reenactors. They love to talk to you, and they would be very happy if you came down to see them. So they start coming Friday afternoon, and they're pretty well set up by Friday evening. Later on in the afternoon, in the afternoon, to begin with, towards the end of the afternoon, Steve Grotto is going to be down with his son, Skylar, and they will be entertaining as unicycle riders and jugglers and magicians, and they do a wonderful act that's just a great crowd pleaser for the kids. After that, our Friday night concert will begin. I should say, first of all, there is a new group called the Minor Adjustments. It's an a cappella choir group from the college who decided that they would like to get involved with the weekend this year, and they asked us if they could come and perform at some point during the weekend, so we fitted them in early in the evening on Friday. And this is all going to be happening now in front of City Hall, on the City Hall steps basically, where the reviewing stand for the parade is for the following day. After the Minor Adjustments, a wonderful Celtic rock, I don't know what kind of band called Gandalf Murphy and the Slambovian Circus of Dreams, if you can imagine a name like that. They're a wonderful, world-renowned group. Actually, they've just come from a series of concerts in England, Roy and Joe, and they received rave reviews over there. You probably didn't get to see them, but you will on Friday night. After they play for a couple of hours, we'll have Eileen Mack will lead the audience in all 3 national anthems. This is a rather unusual thing, again, to have happen. The British national anthem, the Canadian national anthem, and ours will be sung at that time, followed then by the U.S. Navy Band. They will be arranged on the City Hall steps. It's a very beautiful sight because Ben Everest developed a lovely lighting system there last year with lights on those huge pillars in front of City Hall. He's got something special, he said, designed for this year, and we don't even know what it is. But the Navy Band will play several selections, not a whole lot, but probably 3 or 4 selections leading into the fireworks, and the fireworks will then follow, and the evening will be pretty much concluded when the fireworks are done. It all probably will wind up at 9:30, 9:45, something like that on Friday night. Saturday's the big day. Saturday's the day when everything opens up at 10 o'clock in the morning. All the museums are open for you to go through if you want to see them. The reenactment encampment is open for you to come and visit. The kids' games are going full swing. The tavern in the basement of Trinity Church, the Undercroft of Trinity Church, the tavern will be in full swing starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. Incidentally, they will also be open Friday evening until about 10 o'clock. So you want to be sure and stop in there. They've got wall-to-wall entertainment going on the entire time that the tavern is open practically, so that you can go in, have a bite to eat of period food. And this is food that was probably served in the 1814 era. This kind of food was. This food wasn't served then, but this kind of food was. And of course, drink. There will be beers and wines and ciders and other soft drinks for people who don't want any alcohol. That tavern will be open all evening on Friday, all day Saturday and Sunday, starting actually at about 10 or 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. They open. They can't serve alcohol, of course, until noon, but there will be a roundtable discussion in there, which will be kind of interesting, and then the entertainment will take part in the afternoon on Sunday. Getting back to Saturday, I don't want to miss all the things that are happening there, because there will be lecture programs in City Hall that you might want to go and attend. We're hoping to be able to set up the film that was made some years ago about Aiken's Volunteers. You perhaps remember that they were a volunteer group of school children that came out to meet the British, and actually at Culver Hill they were involved with the British. They did such a good job that Congress, after the war, granted each of them a rifle, a musket, I guess it was a musket probably, as a thank you from the United States government. Each of them had those. There were very few of those kids, maybe, I forget now the number, maybe 16 or something like that. As far as I know, there are only 4 of those weapons left in existence today, so you can see that they are extremely valuable. There are a few. The Plucky Rooster contest is being judged at noon. Of course, in the morning, the Cannonball Fun Run will have taken place at about 9 o'clock at the old base oval. So any of you I don't see many of you probably would be running in that. I know I won't be, but that's always a nice event, and probably 100 people or so take part in that. Now at 1 o'clock we have the reenactment. The reenactment is at the mouth of the Saranac River in front of the Champlain Monument. A great place to see it. It's right there in front of you, and you can watch these reenactors doing their thing, both on land and on the water. We expect at least 10 bateaux to be here this year. A bateau is a rowboat about 30 feet long. It took a very active part in the Battle of Plattsburgh. It was also the commerce vehicle that was sent up and down Lake Champlain with goods and people. It was really the taxi cab. It was the freight train of that day. It was how things were moved from one place to another by water. And they will be participating in the battle reenactment at the mouth of the Saranac River, while the guys on shore are banging away at each other with cannons and with muskets. That's at 1 o'clock. It takes about a half an hour. At 2 o'clock, you'll probably see the best parade that you have seen since World War II. We expect to see over 60 units in this parade. They aren't going to be a lot of vehicles. There are going to be a lot of people marching. The theme of the parade this year is Women in U.S. History. It was a great theme to pick, and we had no idea at the time. Lots of people are coming dressed in costume to represent various women in U.S. history. Our Grand Marshals are 2 veteran women from the Second World War, Marie Beamer and Dorothy Lacombe. So it's going to be a wonderful parade. We have 9 bands. We've got all kinds of things going on in this parade, and I think it will be something that you'd really enjoy. If you went to the reenactment, you would simply have to turn around, and you're on Cumberland Avenue. It'll come right behind you at 2 o'clock. If you want to see a better place go to a better place to see it, in front of City Hall is the best place. Because after the parade, which will take about an hour, the main bands come right back to City Hall, and they put on what's called a beat retreat program. A wonderful program when you get all the bands playing together at the same time, about 200 musicians. I mean, it's spine-tingling. It just knocks your socks off, and you really need to see this. Don't leave after the parade is over. The best part is yet to come. And we'll have the Peru School Band. I believe we're going to have the Chateauguay Band this year for the first time. And of course, Her Majesty's Royal Marine Band from Coburg, Ontario will be back, and the U.S. Navy Band will be performing, as well as 2 bagpipe bands and 2 fife and drum bands. Lots of music and lots of people marching. It's going to be fun. And that whole program will cover pretty much the balance of Saturday afternoon, so that by 5:30 or so everything is done. Then until 7 o'clock at night, when the Royal Marine Band will appear in concert in the auditorium of the middle school just down on Broad Street from City Hall. They'll play a couple of hours there. And I think the other thing I want to mention is that on Sunday afternoon, if you want to see another band concert, the U.S. Navy Band will be playing in the same venue in middle school at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. When they're done, that about winds up the program. I want to point out that this button that some of you have purchased today, and I've got some over here, Gary has them if anybody wants to get their buttons now for $10, get you into everything that I've mentioned to you today. One price buys all. And for kids 18 and under, you come free. There is no charge for youngsters. So I think that's it. We hope to see you all there. Thank you for coming here today, and good luck. We hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Kit. For those of you that don't know, I have been teaching history up here at Northeast Clinton for an awfully long time. And this story is an example of one of the unintended consequences that you get when you end up teaching, especially seniors. For years, we tried to incorporate some local history into our government class in 12th grade. And I would frequently mention Dewey's Tavern right over here across the way from the school, and the kids, they couldn't believe it was a tavern and so on. So, you know, after a few years of doing this, the name got out there, and I happened to overhear a couple of seniors in the hall, and you may not know this, maybe you do. The drinking age in Canada, of course, is 18. And so many of our seniors decide to go across the border and have a drink, okay? And one was talking to the other, and they said, we went to this new place up in Canada, and it was super. And the other kid said, well, what was the name of it? And he goes, I'm not sure, but he said, I think it was Dewey's Tavern, you know? And so, you know, I didn't get my point across as I'd hoped to when I was teaching that. But anyway, it was just one of those things. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the firing salute from Craig Russell's militia. So, go ahead.
Another one. Sure not. Why not?
Ceremony here, I would just say to you, it sounds like there's a very exciting week coming up, the Battle of Plattsburgh, and I hope all of you are able to get out and enjoy it. Looks like a great time. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Well, you've just seen the commemoration festivities events at Dewey Tavern on September 6th, and now we are on the date itself, September 11th, 2008, at Peru Dock, a familiar venue for the hometown cable cameras. We've had our goosebumps at this location in the past. Today we're going to, because this is September 11th, this is the actual date of the Battle of Plattsburgh, the Battle of Lake Champlain. And so John Rock and his compatriots will be taking us over to Crab Island today. You've seen us over there many times. You've heard us talk about the graves of American and British people involved in the Battle of Plattsburgh who are buried side by side there. And this is the day that we commemorate the Battle of Plattsburgh by going to Crab Island to officially lay a wreath at the base of that wonderful monument that's been there for since the early 1900s. So join us with John and the crew as we take our ride across the lake and ride the not so very heavy waves of Lake Champlain today on Battle of Plattsburgh Day, September 11th, 2008. I'm not at all sure that the flotillas on September 11th, 1814 had a similar problem, Calvin. But we came here today and John Rock's battery was dead on the pontoon boat, so we said, not to embarrass them, but we have to let people know what we're going through here as we begin our trip to Crab Island.
This will all become part of the legend in future years.
Oh, it certainly will.
When they're hanging around post-1619, remembering.
In West Plattsburgh, but you know, when you stop to think about it, you know, oh, wait a minute, here comes another battery. There's hope. There's hope.
Roger always comes through.
To the rescue.
He always comes through.
Oh, that's great. We got her hooked up, and hopefully we'll see that nice Mercury motor take over. These pontoon boats have been truly amazing over the last few years. You see them on a lot of the lakes and streams in the North Country, whereas when you and I were youngsters, that was an unknown, a pontoon boat.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Part of this Battle of Plattsburgh commemoration is involved with running races, with a lot of musical events, and fishing tournaments. Unbelievable fishing tournaments around here these days.
Well, there's a fishing tournament this year. It just happens to coincide with the BOP activities, but
whatever brings people to town.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to take any people away from the commemoration
so. No, that's a whole different ball game. But what it does is bring dollars into the area. And you and I were just talking as we were setting up the camera to begin our festivities here today on the 11th of September about what would have happened had we not won the Battle of Lake Champlain. And you're absolutely right. I concur. Other parts of the country probably couldn't care less whether we ended up part of Canada down here. And it would have been Canada all the way down toward Lake George, wouldn't it?
Yes, I feel we should be proud of what happened here, talk about its importance, but don't try to make it sound like it's the most important thing that ever happened on the face of the earth here. We all know from personal experience that if the state ended at Lake George or even at Albany, the rest of the state could really care less. They don't really care about those Adirondack Mountains and what lies north, except that they want to keep them wild, and that's about it.
Yeah, it is important for us, and it's an important part of our history, and as such, people interested in history from other parts of the country who would do well to study it, come here to visit, just like you and I might go to New Orleans to see what happened down there, as I've done in the past.
Yeah.
So,
and, we all know about the Battle of the Alamo and so on. But if the last 100 miles of Texas was part of Mexico, it wouldn't affect you or me at all.
Not really, not at this point in our lives.
So all this is part of what shaped our country. But let's keep it in perspective and let's work together with people in Baltimore and in Washington, D.C. and not try to make it sound like we're more important than them, but that we're all important and we all had our part.
Well, this is 2008, and of course 2014 will mark a very special anniversary for the Battle of Plattsburgh commemoration activities. But in the meantime, you have to congratulate the people who work every year to keep this whole idea alive.
Now we've got the crew here that John Rock and Roger Harwood organize every year. Just an amazing effort, and part of what people saw earlier in this program here was Kit Booth reading off the list of activities that are going to take place this year, which of course started at Dewey Tavern on September 6th, but the list is just immeasurable. There's just so many things, and you have to really thank Kit Booth and Gary Vancore and the rest of that crew that does so much and has made this celebration such a focal part of our Clinton County area.
Every year we try to cover things just a little bit differently than we did the year before. We haven't been to Riverside Cemetery for a while, but as we're doing this program on the morning of September 11th, we're planning to go over to Riverside Cemetery later this evening because we haven't been there in a few years.
Yeah, and it's also an impressive ceremony there, and we just feel it's time to go back. And of course, part of what will be coming up on Hometown Cable and future episodes of this Battle of Plattsburgh celebration is the Culver Hill events, the Halsey Corners events, something new this year that they're just adding to it, and of course we'll be there at that spectacular parade that they put on every year.
We do, and the music is so stirring. You know, if you have any patriotic bones in you at all, you'll love the parade. We have some guest bands that are world-renowned visiting, and the marching will be great. And let's hope for a day just like today. Wouldn't that be nice?
That'd be great. Oh, looks like we're ready to roll.
We're ready to rock and roll, so let's get on the boat.
We're struggling to get him in focus, but this is an eagle that has greeted us on our trip here. It can't quite get enough of him to focus on him, but you can see that speck out there. It was closer a moment ago. The eagle coming out to greet us to say well done to the veterans that are coming out here today.
Well, it's 10:15 in the morning on the 11th of September 2008. We're on Crab Island. One of the boats didn't run so well, so we helped to tow it over with John's boat. And wasn't it nice to see that eagle flying? That's kind of a unique experience for the guys who have been so much involved in recouping the memory and restoring the memory of Crab Island and what it's meant in this whole scenario of the Battle of Plattsburgh on land and sea. But the eagle is flown over every time they come over here, and so they think that's great. We started off showing you the McDonough Monument from when we stand right by the monument on Crab Island. We moved over to the water tower on former Plattsburgh Air Force Base, which was a significant place for me to get my bearings when I worked there pouring cement as they built the base in the early 1950s. Back to Clinton Community College on the bluff, known as Bellarmine, and so many other things, including the great Champlain Hotel in the olden days, but all part of showing you where we are here on Crab Island at this significant monument. The other news media pay very little or no attention to what happens here on Crab Island. For us, any small inconvenience of getting up early in the morning and putting on layers of clothes on a cool, frosty September 11th, 2008 is far overshadowed by the significance of this day. And we talked to the guys from the West Plattsburgh Post, American Legion, and John Harwood and the others who've embraced the concept of Crab Island and what it means to this whole commemoration activity scenario every year. And it's very important for them to remember the troops on both sides who are buried here. If you're watching this for the first time, a visitor from out of town, we're glad to entertain you, but we're also glad to inform you with a little bit of the history of the Battle of Plattsburgh and the War of 1812 and what it means to us here in the North Country. And these folks are buried somewhere on this island. The exact location is not publicly known, but it's not too far from here. You can count on it. Side by side, American and British troops, and we'll be talking a lot about that before the weekend activities are finished. Now that The new flagpole has been put up for a number of years. The monument has been cleaned up here. The plaques that they replaced really turned out well, didn't they, Calvin?
Beautiful. You know, we remember what this looked like when we first started coming here, and it's amazing what they've done in just such a few short years.
And for the people who come here to mow, to keep the trails open, to try to rehabilitate this island, I don't know if they'll ever be able to restore it to its original grandeur. We're not precisely sure what it looked like in 1814 when the battle was fought and when this island was used as a field hospital back in those days. But we do know that it became a national park known as McDonough National Park in the 1800s and persisted when this monument was made, and then was largely forgotten. For a lot of reasons, not the least of which was lots and lots of poison ivy which plagued people.
Well, I think the demise of people using the lake as a transportation rather than a recreation system, I think, may have helped, because when this monument was put up, you would have large boats available that brought people up and down this lake.
Steamboats, sure,
yeah.
beautiful.
And, you know, the lake at that time was the highway, so it wasn't an obstacle at that time. Now, unless you've got a pleasure boat, you can't get out here. But back then, you certainly could, as part of normal transportation.
Yeah. But we're here in any case to help continue with this commemoration on the actual Battle of Plattsburgh Day. We'll be covering various activities through this weekend, this very important weekend. For those people who are watching this in retrospect, you can check the Lake Champlain websites. You can check the Battle of Plattsburgh websites to see what the activities are and were. And every year they try to make it a little more important for people. It's sometimes, in this busy world we live in, difficult to get people interested in, persistently and consistently interested in promoting these things, but it can. We have met so many great people over the years who just don't give up, especially when it comes to Crab Island and some of the other events.
Yep. There's Roger Harwood, who was the caretaker here, unofficially.
He and his wife have done such a magnificent job here and on Velcor. And, you know, not only was it neat to see that eagle fly over, but the weather today, Calvin, we didn't know. It was in the 30s and 40 degrees at my house, and I had 3 layers on, and we shed a couple of layers before we got on the boat. It's just a perfect day, isn't it?
Beautiful day.
Absolutely fine. Clear sky all the way around, and we're proud to be here. Here we are again, John Rock. We've been here before, but every day is a great day.
It is, Gordy, and it's a great honor and tribute to honor the vets on this island that so daringly gave their lives over 196 years ago. It's just an honor and a tribute to be out here today. It's such another beautiful day on the island.
As we were coming over here and you saw that eagle, what did you feel like?
Oh, it's just what a feeling it is, because every year that we've started this ceremonies, and since we've redid all of our flagpole and the monument and everything, it's been, the eagle has showed up here every year, and that is not just an omen.
Roger said John Rock is very strange. He came out here this morning to mow. It was windy, the wind was picking up, and he said, I knew instantly when John was over there with his boat because the wind calmed down. And I said to Roger, if John starts walking on water, I'm going home. But isn't it nice when that happens?
It is.
It makes us all feel good.
It's a beautiful tribute and an honor, and such a day to come over here to honor these vets. You know, these vets have been forgotten throughout the North Country for over years and years, and the work that the volunteers have done through post 1619, Roger and Linda and everybody else that's been out here onto this island is a real tribute and honor, and it's a step towards patriotism in the greatest way. As we all know, 7 years ago today, we had such a tragedy. This country was attacked again, and this was one of the last major battles that was fought on American soil, right here on this little island.
For those people who might be watching this for the first time, and it's hard to imagine, there might be newcomers because we've been here so often, explain how important Crab Island is to you.
Crab Island is important to me for the simple fact that there are American veterans laying out here who fought to free this country to what we are right today. And that's such a very important factor, I mean, for any vet, that whether they happen to get through war or anything else, but these guys gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I'm quite sure the day they boarded these boats many years ago that they expected to get back off them, but they didn't. And they're buried here. And to leave them unidentified and not with any recognition is to me, it's a sin.
But it's nice to come over here to the monument, see everything so neat, see those plaques holding up so nicely, isn't it?
It is. It's just such a privilege and an honor, like I said, Gordy. And hopefully in the years to come, we will get more done on this island. We've kind of let the state take over, but as you can see, they've pretty well let it get back out of control from where we've had everything all trimmed around here, and the brush behind us and everything else between the lake and the monument is growing back up. And that was all. We had that all trimmed and cleaned out, and they failed to keep it clean. So we're going to talk to a few dignitaries and stuff, and either they're going to take care of it or our volunteers will take it back over, and we will have our own rules.
I know this place is very, very important to you because you know these people are buried now. We're standing here on this end of the island somewhere, right?
Yes, and also another thing too, Gordy, it's one of the only places that we know of in the world where the enemy is buried with Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and for what took place onto this island was such a special place because after the battle was over, the doctors they didn't care whose sides they were on. They tried to treat everybody, British and American. So that was, you might as well say, when the battle came over, the friendship began.
And you told me as we were walking over here, and I mentioned it again also when the cameras began, that this was a national park.
Yes.
In the late 1800s, early 1900s, this place was a stopping point. As Calvin mentioned, it was a corridor when people traveled up and down the lake with steamboats, and they would stop here and come on the island, have a picnic, walk around, full-time caretaker.
Yes, and there was also, I read in one of the books also that in the late 1840s that a steamship that went by here, they saw remains of a cadaver that had washed off in the island was on the shore that came out of some of the graves because they are so shallow around here. I mean, there's just such history around here that it's unbelievable.
And it's so great to see that flagpole every time you go by the island, and we're going to go back there later this morning. First thing you're going to do is what here? Okay?
We're going to lay this wreath here to honor the veterans that are buried out here in their memory, and then we're going to go back down and raise our flag back on our flagpole to also honor the vets.
I just want you to know that it's an honor for Calvin and me, as part of Hometown Cable, to have you invite us over here to become a part of this every year.
Well, you are part of the island now, Gordy. You and Calvin are part of the island now.
No moss growing under our feet, but we're part of it.
The same as us. And to get the message out, and also you bring back to the vets that are unable to get out here that would like to be here. And as you know, the boat was not put in the water this year, and we're going to have that changed over the winter. We need that boat to have transportation for our veterans over here, and it's just as plain and simple as that. It's going to be happening.
I can't believe how beautiful this day is. Look at the wind, this calm.
It is.
It's perfect.
It's gorgeous. And our 1812 gods have smiled on us one more year.
I think they did it. I think you got a direct connection somewhere, John. Let's get on with the program.
Okay, Gordy.
Right on.
Thank you. American Legion Post 1619 and the 1812 reenactment groups, we would like to present this wreath in honor of the vets that are buried onto this island, that lost their lives and gave the ultimate sacrifice. We will now perform the annual ceremony with a volley of fire of 3. Commander?
Attention. Port arms. Prepare to fire. Squad 1, fire. Squad 2, fire. Squad 3, fire. Present arms. Dismissed. You jumped on.
All right, we're looking through the sumac bushes, and we're going to capture all of this on video as our wonderful crew. I almost said a motley crew, but I won't say that because they sure are a dedicated, great bunch. And they're marching from the monument itself toward the center of the island where the beautiful flagpole has been re-erected for several years now, and it's great to have them all here and to have all of our viewers on Hometown Cable get a bird's eye view through Calvin's camera as they march by. It's significant for many reasons, and those reasons we've reiterated over and over again, but this is September 11th, 2008, and we're on Crab Island to bring you whatever activities transpire here today. Roger and Linda Harwood, how are you doing?
Great. This
Here
morning.
we are again.
Once again.
Linda said, "Oh no, this is getting to be old hat." Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with old hats because they fit. It's like old shoes. They fit so good.
Fits good.
Does it feel good for you to be out here?
It
on
feels
this day?
good to be out here, but I think I should have a new mission now.
A new mission?
Yes.
You didn't come out with Roger with the mower this morning, did you?
No, no.
So we won't make that your mission. You
No.
got enough going on. What was it like this morning? Was it a little breezy when you came?
It was a little
out?
breezy. It was a little cold, a little foggy, but it cleared up. And I think you mentioned to John that it really cleared up when John got to the dock,
Yeah,
and I
isn't
headed
that
off
great?
from here.
He is a magical guy. There's nobody more persistent when it comes to getting things done.
I saw the sky clear off, and I said, I wonder if the eagle will be here today. And you guys caught him on camera, I guess.
Yes, we
And,
did.
Oh, awesome.
Has it circled 3 times?
Oh,
along-
I'll have to watch that.
Over that end of the island. And it happens every
Every day.
single
and
time.
the lake calms down, and it's nice to be here as tourists. And
After the work is
we
done. But you know what? You both have invested so much time and energy that you would never convince me that a large measure of your souls is not right here in this hallowed ground. But isn't it nice to be part of it all?
It's very nice. It's very nice.
To know you've invested that much
continue it.
time and effort, you don't want to see it stop, do you, Roger?
No, I don't want to see it go away, and we'll try to keep doing it as long as we can. As you know, Linda found the trails, started the trail.
I know she did.
uncovering the
Never got
trails,
any poison ivy.
And there's still, she's marked some more, and hopefully in the spring or this fall we can cut the rest of those over on the other side of the island.
The project never ends, does it, Linda?
Well, no, then there's upkeep and side cutting, so
Over and over
Ongoing.
and over again.
The trails have been cut long enough now, so they're starting to, they need continual maintenance, more than just mowing, but they're there, and hopefully they'll stay there.
It's nice for us, Calvin and I, to come back here and just walk some of these trails like once or twice a year to let people know what you've done and to keep the spirit alive. And it's important, I think, to do that, don't you?
I do, but it's not about us, it's about the reason we're here and the reason we come back here. And that's what's really important about Crab Island.
Well, I'm sure the entire North Country echoes my sentiments when I give my personal thanks. Thanks from Calvin and myself and Hometown Cable for all you've done. We're proud to have that camera rolling through just about all of it, Roger.
We're so glad to have you here, and John again puts on another spectacular event out here, and it's so important that continue, and it's so important to have you guys here to make it help it continue.
I can't wait to see what it's going to be like in 2009.
hopefully the
2010, 11, 12,
Right.
13, and then 2014 will be a biggie.
hopefully there'll be more signage. People can walk through now and enjoy the ambiance of Mother Nature, but with signage, the people that don't know will learn the history, and I think they'll be very touched to know what ground they're walking on.
I think that's important. You folks have lived through a lot, and we've done it vicariously through you and through the eyes of the camera, and we're delighted to do that.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thanks so much,
Thank you,
guys,
Gordy.
for everything. Well,
We just wanted to bring over and show the flag of how this flag takes a beating onto this
you
island.
gotta be kidding.
This is
When
the
did
flag.
you put that flag up?
This was taken down in August, And this was the remains of the flag over the tornadoes and everything else.
Oh my. You think the wind doesn't blow on top of that? How tall is that flagpole, John?
100 feet. And this
my
is all
goodness.
This is all that's left of our flag. So.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah. And as you know, we take very good care of this, Gordy. We're the only ones that really like to watch and maintain, and Roger and Linda. Roger lets me know when the flag is tattered and torn, and we get a new one, and out we come and change it from our Legion post.
That's wonderful.
Post
And we talked to
1690.
Calvin this morning, and the Woodmen of the World are going to supply another new flag to you, so we'll keep everything going.
And
here.
we can't thank them enough. And that new flag, we will come out and change that before Veterans Day, so that new flag will fly from all the rest of the winter into the spring till we change it again.
It's 2 minutes before 11. Are you shooting for 11 o'clock?
Yes.
We're going to get set up and do it, okay?
All right.
Okay, John.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me get my Stevie. We're team 2. All right, you guys are 3. We're going from right to left.
We just went from left to right down there. Stay just the way we were. I'm just going to go fire. You guys fire first. You guys fire second. We're fire third. Okay. Punch me. Okay.
All right, we're underway and ready to begin the ceremony at the flagpole on Crab Island.
Fire, fire, fire. Okay. All right. Attention. Present arms. Fork arms. Prepare to fire. Aim. Fire. 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 Present arms.
Of course, old radio people can talk whenever they want to. We're back on the dock. I was going to say dry land, but not quite. We're back at Peru Dock, and Tim Gagno's here from Woodman of the World. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm just terrific. What do you got here?
I have an American flag that I would like to present on behalf of Woodman of the World and Lodge 462. And this very solemn day, I don't think there's anybody who can't remember what they were doing, you know, when those planes hit that morning. I mean, I can remember a friend calling me up and saying, "You've got to look at the news." And I looked at it and I said, "You're watching a movie or something. This is crazy."
And to have that combined with the commemoration every year of the Battle of Plattsburgh and this flagpole out there on Crab Island, honoring the dead from both sides who are buried on that island, to have the Woodman flag flying out there and that flagpole, which these guys erected 5 years ago out there. We just had a wonderful ceremony and laid a wreath out there at the base of the monument at Crab Island, and also raised the flag again at that wonderful flagpole. I can't even begin to tell you what these guys went through to get that flagpole up there. Dropped from a helicopter, repaired and raised again.
It was a project.
Like the phoenix out of the ashes. But then to have you come over here today and make this presentation of that nice flag, and to have it'll be flying on that pole today, maybe, huh?
Very shortly, within a half an hour, Gordy. By the time it takes me to get back up there, we will change the flag, and this flag will be flying. There's only a 4x6 flag up there now, but the pole requires a 5x8, and we appreciate this so much, and what a beautiful gift this is.
We're absolutely happy to do it, and for all that you went through to put that together, we're glad to be a part of it in any way we can.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you very
Timothy.
much.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful. Don't you love it when a plan comes together?
I do. I love it, Gordy, and we appreciate this so much. And like I said, the state sent us down a flag, but they sent us the wrong one. And we like to have the biggest flag that pole will take is a 5x8.
I can always tell you that anytime you need a flag, you contact Woodman.
Thank you very much.
Isn't it amazing and wonderful how the flag of the United States of America affects us? When we raise that flag over there, you know, you feel a flutter in your heart. There's a good reason for that.
And the day that anybody didn't have a tear in their eye, the day we put that pole back up, it was such a glorious and gracious day. It does, and the flag represents so much of this beautiful country. It's something to be proud of, Gordy, and we all are.
It's wonderful. Thank you for a wonderful day, John.
Well, you're welcome, and I want to thank you guys for coming over, and thank you, Tim,
we're
very
delighted.
much.
Thank you, Timothy. Keep smiling. Have
Always.
a great day. Don't step backwards no matter what anybody says. Well, how's this for a transition from presenting a flag to the folks, which hopefully is on that wonderful flagpole on Crab Island, to coming back on the 13th in the Interpretive Center at BOP on Plattsburgh Air Force Base. Chris Wingler, how are you?
I'm excellent. It's Parker Wingler. I hyphenated and tricked everybody.
Oh, you really kept the original Parker Wingler?
I did.
I love that idea.
Had to. We have Parker's maple syrup and...
Well, you got the maple syrup tradition,
So-
and you're just as sweet as any maple syrup that's ever been known.
Why, thank you. Anyways.
So it's been kind of a busy week for everybody, hither and thither.
It has. Not only were we getting ready for the celebrations this weekend, but we had school kids. I just calculated, and we had about 150 to 200 school kids come through this week so that they could learn about the Battle of Plattsburgh and then go see the festivities this weekend.
I think that's great. It's about 12:15 during the noon hour. We're getting psyched for the big parade at 2 o'clock this afternoon in downtown Plattsburgh. Bigger and better than ever, as always.
As
of course.
always.
Are you going to be sitting down there? You're going to stay here all day?
I have to stay here. I'm the sole staff person as the museum
you
manager,
are.
so I'm always here, but that's all right.
That's all right, too. I understand you were kind of busy this morning. Did you have a few groups through, or?
We had a lot of visitors, both out of town, out of state, and otherwise. It's always good. We have the shuttle buses running, so that helps, too.
I noticed that. Just in case some of our viewers may not be aware of it, since we began filming the commemorations of the Battle of Plattsburgh events some years back, have developed and are continuing to evolve an historical museum campus on the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base. And isn't it neat to watch the progress out here?
It is tremendous. I mean, when I started here almost 5 years ago, we had just where we're standing right now, and we've worked on expanding some of the exhibits. We've received new artifacts, and we have a second building open too with art galleries and a new exhibit. So it's tremendous to watch not only the Battle of Plattsburgh grow, but also the museum campus as a whole, with Clinton County Historical Association out here and the Champlain Valley Transportation Museum. I think it's great.
It's great. How have you personally been involved in the events of this week?
This week, I've been mostly here at the museum, as I said, with the school kids, and
That's important.
That is. We need to teach the kids so they understand what's going on in order for this tradition to grow. So.
What do you see in the future for the coming year? I know we're going to do some ghost tours again this year.
We are. I have to talk to you about that later. We get hooked up for the Haunted Haunts tour.
Oh, yeah.
For the coming year, we're actually going to consolidate our facilities here. We're going to move all the exhibits into one building, and then hopefully be able to cut down on our expenditures and be able to use the space where we're standing right now as classroom space, special event space, because we not only have school kids, but we also have teachers that come and do 18-12 immersions. So, and we need space. We do a summer camp too, so that's going to be our big move before winter.
The education process is an important one, and I'm glad you do it so much. Starting educating these school kids, because they're our future supporters.
They are.
And they can start talking about us anytime now, right?
Yeah. You know, we have everything from, I think my youngest group was first and second graders. We do homeschoolers. And I had children come from as far away as Manhattan. They came up
Did you really?
as 88 8th grade boys.
Oh my
And they stayed here for the day, so it was great.
Was that a little bit of a challenge that day?
A little busy trying to fit everybody in the spaces we have, but
So you won't be able to make the parade this afternoon.
I guess maybe I'll have to watch Hometown Cable.
I think if
I
you
have
watch
cable
Hometown
now, so
Cable-
I'll do that.
Oh, you do, really?
I do. I enjoyed watching the Rouse's Point parade, or the, what was it, Moore's parade, and the
Calvin makes them all. Calvin's everywhere. Like Chicken Little, he's everywhere, he's everywhere.
And I couldn't see our cannon and bateau in the 4th of July parade, but I watched Hometown Cable and caught it.
They did, there it was?
Yes.
I love
Very
it.
good.
I want you to have a wonderful afternoon. You and all of your family members are among our dearest friends, and
Thank
I
you.
want only the best for you and for the Battle of Plattsburgh Association, affectionately known as BOPA. I talked to Keith Herculow, who is the president of this cotton picking board.
Yes.
And he was worried that there might not be enough manpower on the rooster.
Yes, we actually have an injured list this year. We're down
It's
down
amazing.
three. Down
like
three.
all the baseball teams that I like.
Down 3. So we're trying to get the
I thought they
rooster
get
crew
you
back.
out there rowing today.
I guess I have to be here to oversee operations.
Too bad. Anyway, they'll find a way.
Yep, we have the rooster. We're always looking for crew for that, and once we get the injured list, everybody off the injured list, that should be better. And then we're trying to drum up a cannon crew too, because we have our cannon that was in the 4th of July parade. Now we have need to have a crew for it. So.
Oh my.
We're going in all sorts of directions.
We got one more day of activities, and that'll be the 14th tomorrow on a Sunday, and we're a lot of things going on, and we hope the people, some of the people who are viewing this have been able to take personal advantage, but in the meantime, it's a pleasure for us to show it on Hometown Cable.
Excellent. Always a pleasure.
Chris, you're the best.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, will you?
You too.
Bye-bye.
I need someone who likes press.
We love this historical campus on the former old Plattsburgh Air Force Base. And we love this building because for a long, long time we wanted a venue that was big enough to display all the things that there were to display. And since I've been here for a very long time, because I'm very old, I have had microphones and television cameras in every venue since the early 1960s. Marissa Gilbert, I am so pleased to be in this building, and every time I come in here, you show me something new.
We try.
How goes the battle for that?
Well, we've just changed a series of exhibits in this room and introduced a whole series of new textiles that haven't been on exhibit for quite some
I
time.
know the textiles were all in boxes, and we got
Yes.
some previews.
And we've tried, and we have a signature quilt here, Stafford
at
Friendship Signature Quilt.
Wow.
And also slippers from the wedding of Sarah Hager in 1810, I believe.
They had a family reunion on
They
Cumberland
did,
Head,
and
I missed it, unfortunately.
And they did, and actually we offered to stay open, and they weren't interested. They had so many other things going on.
They had a huge
They didn't
crew of
come here,
people out
so
there.
we didn't stay open for that. We've got the Platt jewelry on exhibit, which is actually, if you'll notice, she's wearing it in the portrait.
Is it? Boy, that's provenance of the first order,
Yes,
isn't it?
And then we have a series of fans, ladies' fans, and a lace dicky, and some examples of ladies' fashions from the 1880s. Wedding dress from the 1880s.
It's just beautiful.
This is also new. This is sort of a case that's dedicated entirely to Frank Palmer.
Oh, yes.
From the 16th New York Volunteer Infantry. So this entire case is Frank Palmer's journal, examples of his letters, his notebooks, his camp stool, and a picture of Frank himself, a little bit about him. We like to keep it short and sweet so that people can varied tastes as they go around.
Very tasteful and impressive.
And also over here, this case has been entirely redone. Early lighting devices is the right-hand side with some good explanations and examples. And the left-hand side, we brought out these dry measures, which we've had in the museum since 1956. The original Clinton County dry measures, the standard measure for the county.
Isn't that unbelievable? I didn't even know you had them.
Issued by New York.
Oh, my.
And a quick history of how they were mandated by New York, the law, and issued, and how much we had to pay for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
The entire set, including more than this, was $300.
Oh, can you imagine what the bill would be these days for a similar set? That's wonderful.
And then we have some examples over here of hand-painted porcelain, which was
let's walk over here
very
just a little
popular,
bit.
a lady's hobby, a genteel hobby.
Yes, by all means. And look at this. Wow.
Most of this was done by women of the Stackpole family.
Yes.
And a little exhibit, mini exhibit again, on William Gilliland. And a little bit of controversy on whether this miniature is actually him or his son.
Oh.
And that's
We've
the
talked about
controversy
him
right
often
here.
on this program, so it's nice to see this display. That's wonderful.
And this is also new.
Yes.
Basically, shoemaker's tools and how shoes used to be made, and an example of an 1820 shoe from our collection. Look at that, it's almost a horseshoe on the bottom.
Isn't that amazing? That's great. There's so many things that have been kept in nooks and crannies, in corners and attics and small rooms. That isn't it nice to be able to rotate the displays now and have a space to do it? It was a blessing for the Clinton County Historical Association to come up with this building.
Yes.
There's so many good things that happened when the base closed, along with all the bad things that we lamented about for years. But to have the museum in a building that's a nice size, that have storage space.
And good ceiling height, and of course, I don't know if I've mentioned, but these wonderful lights that we have, all these floodlights, it's a grant via city, MLD.
No kidding.
The entire building.
I did not know that.
Yes. So we're very lucky. I'm sure we would not have been able to afford this as early in the stages of moving into this building unless the city had helped us.
Imagine what the building itself would have cost had you had to purchase it at full price.
Yes.
A grand.
And then all the volunteer work that went into it to rehabilitate it, the painting, the other work to get the rooms ready. You can see we need new carpets, okay? But, we'll get to them.
I thought they looked pretty darn
We'll get to
good to
them.
me. But I'm so glad you mentioned volunteers, because this organization could not have survived nearly as long
No.
without great volunteer efforts and people who are really passionate about preserving.
Because everything takes time. All the work that happens behind the scenes that you never see takes, Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, Saturday mornings. We're here and doing work and indexing the collection and the paperwork that's involved with running a museum and all the things that you never think about.
Well, we've been pleased to chronicle the success of this organization for many, many years, and who knows what the next step's going to be. Have you had quite a few visitors during the summer of 2008?
It's been very busy. Ken, the docent, and Rose.
Ken, what would we do without
I know,
Ken and now Rose?
And really, we've had a very good run, and actually a lot of homeschooling parents who are out on doing the museum thing with their kids. We're getting a lot. They come here and they hit all three.
Isn't it great? Isn't it great to be part of this campus now? It's something we only dreamed about 20 years ago, and now here we are.
Well, thank you very much for
and
coming.
For somebody who doesn't like to be on camera or with a microphone, you did a perfect job, Marissa. We'll tell everybody.
Okay.
Thanks so much, and have a great day, will you?
Thanks, Gordy.
See you later.
Bye.
Well, this is a triumvirate, so this is the third leg of the triangle here, the historical campus on the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base. This is the Transportation Museum. We remember when this was a gleam in a few people's eyes and, centered around a great Lozier automobile. Look at what we have today in 2008. Stu, what's your last name?
Friedman.
Friedman.
Yep.
Are you a local?
Yes, I moved here 4 years ago from southern New York.
Well, we can't call you a native yet, but after another 40 years or so.
Sure.
So how did you happen to come up here, Stu?
Well, in late 1970s, I rode my bicycle up here with an organization called American Youth Hostels.
Come on.
And rode all the way up to Montreal on a bicycle. Yeah.
Serendipity brought you back
Yeah.
in 2004.
Yeah.
And why the Transportation Museum?
Oh, I'm into cars myself. I have a couple, and I like working on them. And actually, I got this car running right here, the Jaguar XKE.
Oh, no kidding. What year is it?
It's a 67, I believe. Yes.
Oh, man.
XKE. Yep, 6-cylinder. Yeah.
The museum is looking better all the time, and that's the whole idea, isn't it? To get people to come in here and say ooh and ah and wow, and it was built around the Lozier, and Dr. Tony Vaccaro had a dream, and you became part of the dream.
Yeah, it's certainly a pleasure to help him out with this place. I volunteer my time.
There's a lot of North Country history involved here because transportation is a wide-ranging topic. We love the old Plattsburgh motor service truck. We like the vehicles. Some of these are familiar to us from parades years ago, and Steve Flanagan's milk wagon. I meant to ask Steve how he poked a hole in the back of it, or if that was done during his childhood, but we know Steve very well.
That was the rearview mirror.
Okay. I'll believe anything you tell me. So what's going on with the organization here on a regular basis?
Well, there's gatherings, galas, and parties for fundraising, and there's always people interested in putting their cars in into the room, and they have to be appropriate, really. Some of the newest not donations, but lent, I guess, is the Army Jeep, which never actually saw service, but is a World War II Jeep, era Jeep, and then the Riley, which was it's a classic roadster. Very few of those built.
Great vehicle.
Yeah.
And the gasoline sign, 36.9. Of course, I can remember when gasoline was a lot less than that, but don't we wish we could return to those days?
Early 1970s, yeah.
So what cars do you own?
Well, I got a 73 Triumph Stag, about 200 made, and then
beautiful. And
I was fortunate enough to be able to buy the Porsche that's on the other side of the museum through it's literally a racing car. There was only 750 sold in North America. Most of them are raced, but I was incredibly fortunate to have Porsche actually build the car to the way I wanted it, and part of the reason was it was coming into this museum. So
isn't that great? And what a great hobby you're involved in. What do you do for a living?
Well, I've done a couple of things in my life, and one of them
haven't we all?
One of the things was I worked in for the UAVs in the military with the video connection and satellite connections in Desert Storm, and and then
that's a whole other story. We might get a hold of you sometime, do a show. That's very interesting. What else?
Well, I worked for a couple of news organizations with their digital and HD upgrades, and it's Fox News, MSNBC, CNBC, and so that's kind of towards the end of its line these days. You know, most of the upgrades.
You noticed that, huh? Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah, but it's been exciting, and I literally worked for like 21 years, and so this is where I settled down.
I love it. We're the better because you came here, Stu.
Yeah, thanks.
This has been a great pleasure to talk to you. I hope you get a lot of crowds here over the Battle of Plattsburgh weekend.
Sure.
We see people on the street that look lost.
It's great.
Just point them up here.
Some of the, I just wanted to bring up that the future is the train part of the museum.
Oh, yes. Tell us about that a second.
And I came from near Bear Mountain, New York, and near West.
Very, very well.
Near West Point, and they do a phenomenal display for Christmas with their train set up and everything. And hopefully, eventually, that's what we got going on over there with a nice Christmas display or a seasonal display.
Won't that be great?
Yeah, and the kids can come.
This is a place full of ideas.
Sure is.
We can't wait to see it develop. Of course, you got to have money before you can go take each baby step, right?
Sure. Yep. I mean, people come and change their displays, like the gentleman who has those motorcycles over there. He comes and brings different motorbikes, and and drops one off, brings in, and takes one. And
so it's always fresh and new.
Yeah, sure is. Yep.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Stu, thanks so much.
Thank you
for coming to town. Have yourself a wonderful day. We'll talk to you again.
Hopefully.
Okay. See you later.
Thank you very much.
Right. You know how it is when that camera starts, we like to tell the whole story, and we kind of walked away from the theme of the Battle of Plattsburgh, but we wanted to show you what this museum complex is like on the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base. It's been a great pleasure to watch them grow from little tiny seeds into what they are today, and to listen what the prospects are for the future as we're recording this in the middle of September 2008. Another chapter of the Battle of Plattsburgh activities, the commemoration ceremonies, will continue. There'll be more programs to watch and see. Again, we thank you for watching. We always thank you for your comments. We beg you for your monetary help if you can write a small or a large check and send it to Hometown Cable, 2 words, on their, what is 1233? 1477. Or 1477 Ridge Road, Champlain. The zip code is, I have no idea. 12919. And thank you so much for anything you can do to keep this program on the air. And who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.